Welcome, everyone, to this third consecutive meeting of the South Kingstown Town Council to look over our operational budget. Our first order of business is to rise and pledge to the flag. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And it's nice to have some people in the audience tonight. But before we get to all of you, Steve, could you tell us what we're going to go over tonight?
Tonight's review will start off with the human service agencies and civic agencies. Each of those agencies has an opportunity to be present tonight to spend a few minutes with the council as far as program identification. Once we complete that, we have full series of reviews to be made on all public safety departments, as well as then dealing with insurances, capital improvements, and contingencies. So if we could start out, I think that we had asked agencies if they would tell us who would be representing them this evening and who was scheduled to come in tonight. I guess we could ask, maybe it'd be better if we go in the order that's in the listing. Is there anyone here from South Shore Center? If not, South Shore Center continues to request the $15,000, which is the same appropriation that they've received for several years. Home and Hospice Care of Rhode Island, $1,500 is the donation that's being requested. Third is VNS Home Services. The fourth is the Thunder Mist. They're requesting the continued support for the $24,000. That provides the medical and dental for uninsured residents. The next is Johnny Cake Center, and Kate Brewster's going to be with us. And she's doing a double hit tonight because she's also going to be doing Welcome House.
Yeah, please step up to the podium and state your name.
Thank you. My name is Kate Brewster. I'm the executive director of the Johnny Cake Center of Peacedale House. I've been there for about 5 months, so I'm relatively new. I just want to thank you all so much for the support that you have given to the center over all these years. Not only financial support, but your volunteer time. You shop in our stores, you donate with us, and we really, really are appreciative. I just want to give you a quick snapshot. I won't talk for long about what we did in terms of numbers last year. We actually served around 1,650 people in 2015. 75% of those folks were residents of South Kingstown. The other 25% were from Narragansett. 1 in 3 of those individuals are kids under the age of 18, and 1 in 10 are seniors. We provided 215,000 pounds of food through our emergency food pantry, which allowed folks to prepare over 170,000 meals. So lots of food going out of the pantry. And I think it's important to know that while our numbers are down in terms of the average monthly number of folks that we're serving, as the economy improves, we surveyed a lot of people around Thanksgiving. Many of you were there, and asked them about a host of issues, including food security. And what we found is that 80% of the 160 people who answered our questions told us that they are still food insecure. They're either very low food security or low food security. So there's still a tremendous amount of need. So we're requesting $22,000 for the coming year. All of that money would go towards food and our food pantry operations. So again, thank you for the past support. I'm happy to answer any questions for the Johnny Cake Center, and then I'll talk for even less time on behalf of Welcome House.
I had a question. You said that 25% of the people that you served were from Narragansett. Do you also get funding from them as well, or is it just?
We do get some municipal funding from Narragansett.
Great.
Yes.
And I think I'm sure other people are going to echo this, but you guys just do a phenomenal job. I haven't heard anything negative, especially since you've started. It just seems like you're really growing and prospering, and I love having you in the community, and it's just great to see what you guys have been doing.
Well, it's great to be working here, finally, after all these years, in my own town, so thank you. And I'll just mention, I am also on the board of the Welcome House of South County. And as you all know, that is an emergency shelter located on North Road. They are also right now operating a winter shelter bed program at Peacedale Congregational Church. They have transitional and permanent supportive housing. Joe Jobeck, who is the executive director now, is doing a fantastic job running that organization. He has brought on a whole new host of board members. They are requesting $8,000 for case management, clinical consultation, and transitional services for folks who are looking to get out of the shelter. So they also are very grateful for all your support, and if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them about Welcome House. Okay, thank you.
Continuing down the list, next would be Kane Child Development Center, $9,000 request. South County Community Action, continued funding at the $24,000 left. Domestic Violence Resource Center, Mary Roder's here.
Good evening. I'm Mary Rhoda, and I've been the Executive Director of the Domestic Violence Resource Center since before some of you were born. I've been there almost 16 years. We are the only agency in South Kingstown specifically dedicated to the mission of eliminating domestic violence. So we've asked for $5,000 for funding from South Kingstown. South Kingstown continues, unfortunately, to be the second highest percentage of people we serve. Westerly is the first number, highest percentage served. South Kingstown is second. I don't really know what else you'd like to know.
What type of services exactly do we help support, I suppose?
The Domestic Violence Resource Center is probably known best for its drop-in center on 61 Main Street, where we do advocacy for people who come in who are either victims or their families. We do support groups, we do counseling, and we also have a safe home within Washington County. So we also have 4 permanent supportive housing units for people who have gone through a shelter program. We offer court advocacy is the other core program that we offer. So we help victims navigate the court system.
About how many people do you think you service over the course of a year?
I'm sorry that if you have our proposal, those were the previous years. We didn't have the most recent numbers. The last year, we've served 921 clients. Now, that only means we may have served them 10 times, but we served 921 people last year.
Mary, your organization does a great job, and
Yeah.
kudos to you, because I know you've been so involved for such a long period of time, and you're a great resource to our community. And
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for your support. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Next agency is the Washington County Coalition for Children. This was an agency that back in 2012-13 received 400, the following year 400, 2015 400, and last year the council increased that to 800. This year the agency's requested funding of $1,000 or a $200 increase over the existing appropriation.
Hi, my name is Susan Orban. I'm the coordinator of the Washington County Coalition for Children. Sorry, I came from another meeting. So yes, our request is the same as it's been from the first time we have come to the town, and it is the same that we request of every town. We are the region's child advocacy organization, and we use this money to help support our various initiatives. We're almost entirely volunteer run and driven, except for me. I'm part-time, and this funding helps support our initiatives. My salary is now being paid for by South County Hospital, and so it goes direct, and all our overhead and all of that is covered by South County Health and VNS Home Health Services. The kinds of things that we do are initiatives that can't get done any other way but through collaboration, and we take on tough issues like bullying prevention and children's mental health. We mobilize the community around action. This investment by the towns, we're able to use as a match for state funding. Often the health department asks us for a 10% match, and we're able to use these town contributions to do just that.
Very much appreciate the work you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next agency is the Education Exchange. The Education Exchange is requesting a $3,500 contribution, same level as current year. Easter Seals of Rhode Island received $1,000 first in 14-15 and received similar appropriation in 15-16 year. They're asking continued funding in 16-17. Phoenix House, which is listed, has left the area and has not submitted an application, and in direct discussions with them, they've indicated that this is outside of the service area that they are providing for at this time. So the $12,000 request has been deleted from budget consideration. If there's no other agencies that are here from Human Service or Med Services, then I think we could move into the outside agency accounts. The first is the League of Cities and Towns. That organization has had the same rental structure in place since 1998. It still says that I think it's $11,115. The celebrations is the 3 town parades that are provided for within your budget. That provides funding of $2,333 for each of the parades, Veterans Day, Fireman's Parade, and the Memorial Day parades. That's the town's contribution. Those parades are not municipal parades. They're run by the various organizations, whether it's the fire district or whether it's the VFW Washington County Post. The next item is the Union Fire District. The town has traditionally provided a $400 contribution to each of the companies within both the Union and the Kingston Fire Districts, which would total out to this $3,600. Next agency is the Narrow River Preservation Association. They are requesting $500. David Smith was going to come in tonight to give you greetings.
Steve? Oh, sorry. I didn't know you saw David.
My name is David Smith. I'm the program coordinator for the Narrow River Preservation Association, and I'm here pinch hitting for Richard Grant, the president, who's ran into a couple of trees while skiing. First of all, I want to thank you for the continued support of the Narrow River Preservation Association and tell you that the request for $500 will be used to offset the cost of the Narrow River Riverwatch, the Narrow NRPA Riverwatch program, where we test 14 sites on the river and its principal inputs 14 times a year for various parameters, including dissolved oxygen, chloroform, and nitrogens. All of the work is done by volunteers. However, it costs each site about $420 for chemical analysis, supplies, and training through the URI URI Watershed Watch. So I want to thank you very much. The data is available on the NRPA website. It's very important to monitor the condition of the river, and thank you very much. If you have any questions, thank you.
Next in order would be the Southern Rhode Island Chamber of Commerce, Elizabeth Berman.
Good evening. Elizabeth Berman, Executive Director of the Southern Rhode Island Chamber of Commerce, where we support and enhance the business community of Southern Rhode Island and create opportunities for the growth and development of our member businesses. The funding that we get from the town helps with a few projects that we have at the Chamber. First and foremost, it's our holiday banner program that runs from Thanksgiving through after New Year's every year. We hang banners in the village of Peacedale and on Route 108 from Old Mountain Lanes down to Rody Joe's, and also on Old Tower Hill Road, so it does help with that, with funding that project. It also helps with our gift certificate program, which keeps people spending money locally, which is what we want. And also helps to staff the chamber during our busy tourist season in the summer. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Just for clarification, the funding level in the 2013 was 7,000. It increased to 8,014, increased to 9,015. The request that's been submitted by the agency is at the $12,000 level for the 16-17 year, or a $3,000 increase over current year level.
You had a big campaign with the raffle calendars.
We did.
How'd that go?
It's going great. I just gave it away to a lovely girl named Christine today. She won $1,000 today, which is really great. But it's a joint venture between the Chamber and Animal Rescue Rhode Island. So we won't really have final numbers till the end of the year and all the money is given out. But it's a terrific raffle. And I actually had someone come in and just buy one today. So people are still buying calendars, which is really great. I hope you win.
Is there a specific plan for the extra $3,000? Do you know where that is?
Increased staffing in the summer hours. I'd really love to be open Saturday and Sunday. It's obviously the busiest here in the weekends over the summer, so I'd really love to increase those hours as much we can to better serve the tourists that are here over the summer season.
What are your hours right now?
Through Memorial Day to Labor Day, we're open Saturdays 9 to 2. So those are the additional hours that we add. During the rest of the year, we're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 4. Thank you.
Next agency is the Peacedale Neighborhood Revitalization. Trace Martin. She's not with us. They have requested level funding at the $3,000 level. And next would be Wakefield Village Association, Ken Tetzner. This agency has received funding through the budget process at the $3,500 level. They've requested an increase to $6,000 in the 16-17 year. Proposed funding, as in all of the accounts, is level funding at the $3,500.
How you doing? My name is Ken Tetzner. I'm the president of the Wakefield Village Association. Basically what we do is we're made up of all the local businesses, and I'm going to lower this. Thanks. I saw their face. Thank you for that. But our main goal is to organize as a group to beautify our downtown and to enhance the visibility and viability of Wakefield. I don't know if when you drive down the street at Christmas that we actually put all the lights in the trees. Last year we subbed that out. That actually cost, just for the service alone, to put all the trees on the poles and in the lights, $3,500. On top of every year, unfortunately, we have to purchase new lights, which is up to a cost of approximately $2,500 at about 13 strands, which we could actually use more on each tree if we really wanted to put on, you know, a great show, to say. We also did a tree lighting this year. We personally cut down a 25-foot tree and dragged it down there, bought some ornaments, put some lights in it, which was nice. We had about 200 to 300 people. We had Santa's workshop as well, and we gave back to the community. We also do a river fire, which we're really looking to expand on. That's grown over the years. Right now we got about 6 or 7 fires on the water. We have live bands consistently every Thursday from June all the way to September. We're really looking to grow on that. That's been growing. We've had about 200 people at a time, and we had some artisans, so we're really looking to grow on that. It looks like our budget's going to be about $12,000 this year. Last year we got $3,500 from the town. This year we're looking for $6,000 if you can help us out. And we only have about 35 members. We're hoping that'll grow, but that's what we do.
Kenny, I know when you did the river fire, you also did like a food drive for Johnny Cake, right?
We did.
Do you know
We actually,
how much food you raised, or?
I don't know approximately, but I mean approximately I could say 2 big bins. Does every time. I mean, people were really good about it. That was more than we thought we would get because we don't really have the budget to market and really get the word out. So we kind of just use Facebook and hope that people would share that. But I think this year, I mean, every year it grows. This year will be even better, and we're hoping to build on that program as well to give back to the community and the Johnny Cake Center.
And can you tell us about the your plans for Festival Fete this year?
Yeah, actually this year we're taking back over Festival Fete. We kind of put that out there to a third party that came in and ran a festival. We're actually going to throw our own Wakefield River Festival this year. And with the hopes of doing that is to raise some funds. Obviously, you don't want to come up here all the time and just ask for money. We want to try to be active and raise some of our own funds. So that's another undertaking that we're doing this year. And we're made up of all volunteers. We have no paid employees. Just a bunch of businesses and business owners that get together, volunteer all their time, along with a lot of help from some of the people on town council have showed up to help, and we appreciate that.
You didn't mention the ladies' night, which I think is one of the most popular
'Cause
events.
it's ladies' night.
Ladies' night. Ladies' night on Main Street is always a popular one.
It is.
As well as you guys did a great job with the Halloween. The
Halloween festival, you're right.
That was a great one. And I think it was, a big turnout for that as well.
It was our best yet. Actually, we were doing that, and that went away, and people actually showed up for it the one year we didn't do it, so we felt really bad because here's these little kids in costume expecting a festival. So we brought that back, and actually last year it was a huge success, and that's another thing. Yes, thank you.
Were you guys behind the Chalk It Up for Bullying too, or was it?
Nope, that is not.
Okay.
That'd be her.
Okay, because people really like that too. We got a lot of positive feedback on that one too.
Yep, and I'm actually on Main Street, and we did as well. That was a great thing.
And you're applying for some grants too, right, this year?
We did apply for some grants to try to go help us out, especially with the river fire. We're really trying to grow on that. We see that as a great opportunity for the town to bring people from not only our community but other communities to come down. We had some great bands last year with the help of the 52 groups of hunger from the Hunger Bus there. So we're really trying to build on that, and a lot of funds will go there.
So with the extra money, you mainly focused in on increasing the water fire and the lights for Christmas.
River fire, lights for Christmas, even build more on the Halloween event, all the events we do, and the flowers, I didn't mention that, but we do all the flowers up and down Main Street as well, and we take care of those. We purchase all those, we plant them, so that's a big expense as well. All right? Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Next is the South Kingstown Partnership for Prevention, level funding request for the $4,000. Washington County Regional Planning Council, Jeff Broadhead.
Thank you very much. Is this is a good distance? Is this good volume there? Thank you very much for this opportunity. For the record, my name is Jeff Broadhead, Executive Director of the Washington County Regional Planning Council. I'm a resident all the way down in Narragansett, but I do work right on Main Street, where the Planning Council has been since 2009. And South Kingstown is a founding member of the Planning Council, and one of your town councilors, currently President Collins, has been on our council board since the inception of the organization. So we thank you very much for the continued support. We're in the budget again this year for $5,000, and the dues that are set by our board are $6,000 for communities of this size. But I'm not here to complain about that. I'm grateful for the 5,000. The dues make up about 15 to 20% of our budget. So the rest of it is grants and earned income. But the dues are critical for the operation of the town council members of the board, and that's really primarily where we use them for a portion of our office space here in Wakefield and some of our expenses in Wakefield. The Planning Council over the years has done a lot of projects. Because the dues pay such a small portion, the project choice is made both by where we can get funding to support a project, as well as what the interest of the towns are to do. And it's balancing that work, which means that sometimes we choose a very different project than what we used to do in the past. A couple of years ago, we were involved in energy projects to help our communities. We actually were working with 14 communities, which is more than South County, but they wanted our help, so we did. And in that project, we discovered that the towns were being grossly overcharged for streetlights, and that led into our current project. And as a 1.25 person organization, we really don't have the capacity for multiple big projects. So the streetlights project, we had to write legislation, get it passed, and then for 2 years defend it at the Public Utilities Commission. The law that we wrote, and I wrote every word of it, says that the PUC has 60 days to consider it. It's now almost 3 years and counting, and they are still working on it. So my good friends at National Grid don't support the law and don't follow it, and the PUC takes its time. What those lead to is much higher expenses for the advocacy organization, which is taking the lead statewide. We are implementing the law as we speak. We have our organization that we formed, or our program that we formed, is called PRISM. It's the Partnership for Rhode Island Streetlight Management. And this is, we realize the economy of scale to save the most for our local communities requires a statewide program. We now have 25 communities that are members of PRISM, 65,000 streetlights under one form of contract or another. This is big. We're going to save Providence, the city of Providence, what they're saying is $24 million over the next 10 years, just on the streetlight savings. When we started this project, we were projecting a 15 to 20% savings. In preparation for tonight's meeting, I looked at the last time I made a funding request. The last couple of years, I've been told I didn't have to do the funding request. It was put into the budget without a letter, but our last letter was written in 2013. And we projected a 15 to 20% savings. All of the analyses we're doing for communities now are showing a 50 to 70% savings. This is how much you're being overcharged by National Grid. Now, South Kingstown at this point is not participating, but I've met with Steve several times. I'm hopeful that we do. You should save close to $100,000. It's a big ticket savings. But we have to do analysis first before I can give you real numbers, and that's the first step. So anyway, our main project this now is streetlights reform. That will enable the Planning Council to be virtually self-sufficient. We are moving now, as of last December, we moved away from grants and into earned income from the streetlights program. I'm anticipating that next year will be about 80% funded by the streetlights program, and the year after that, 100%. At that point, our board of directors our council will revisit the dues structure. And maybe you'll get a reduction. I don't know. I'm not making any promises. But at this point, we're looking for level funding. We'll be very appreciative of it. We hope to serve South Kingstown directly with this program. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much.
We don't have to get into the weeds on the streetlights. I think we'll probably do that at some future point. But in addition to the straight-up savings, there's also the potential for these streetlights to be used in other ways. Can you explain that a little bit?
Sure. Traditionally, a streetlight is a light. It's just a light that turns on at night when it gets dark. There's a photocell on top, and it turns off when it gets light in the morning. And the lights are a relatively efficient light called high-pressure sodium. It's a yellow light. It makes it very hard to see colors. The newer technology for lighting is LEDs, and LEDs have become absolutely cost-effective for streetlights now. They are hardly any more expensive than a sodium light, and they produce more light per watt. They produce a better light so that police officers can recognize the color of someone. So instead of saying in wearing a dark jacket, they can tell whether it's dark green, dark blue, dark red. People that are colorblind like me, you're still going to hear dark jacket, but from hopefully everybody else, you'll hear the real thing. When the manufacturers started developing LED lighting, they realized that these lights can operate at less wattage and be dimmed or be brightened. So they developed a control system to do that. Then they realized that while this control system is to work light to light to light, it forms a network across your community. And then they put their minds together, can this be used for other purposes? And so these networks are of controllers on streetlights, and we have a small warehouse now with 16,000 of these controllers sitting for the city of Providence at a couple of $100 a piece. And these controllers will allow not just the control of the streetlights to dim them at night and brighten them. They will allow the police dispatch office, if there's an accident or if there's an incident, to brighten all of the lights near an intersection. They will allow the reading of water meters without anybody having to go out in the field to do it. The water meter manufacturers are making things that connect. They'll connect directly to the smart grid meters that National Grid is very slowly thinking maybe about someday implementing. They will allow the control of traffic signals. But more than that, they'll allow you to manage the amount of electricity your lights use, because these things have a metering chip in it that's more accurate than the meter on this building or in my house or your house. And so in the future, communities will be able to pay only what the electricity that they use. Right now, you're paying for streetlights on an unmetered rate. It's an estimate. In our estimates, within 7 to 10% accurate. And the meters will make it 100% accurate. So for some communities, that will be a 7 to 10% savings. For others, if they're using more than what the thing says, it may actually be an increase, but at least you'll be paying for what you use, and to me, that's fair. So the controls have multiple uses. Welcome.
I'm curious, what has your organization done for regional planning locally for South Kingstown?
Okay. The first thing is that over the years, as I say, we move from one project to another. So we normally do projects for longer periods of time. These are often multi-year projects. So stuff that helps you every year is the real estate conveyance tax. We led the reform of that several years ago, which allowed towns to get a piece of the action of every real estate transaction. And after that, and this was just before I came on, there was a work with police details and the training for those that ended up being a statewide program that we were one of the lead of. We have worked on energy programs in various buildings. South Kingstown did not participate in all of that. They participated in the beginning of that project. And then both South Kingstown and we separately saw that there was a better way to do things than what we had been doing. We used to have meetings of all of the planners monthly. That became smaller and smaller. For example, your planner didn't come very often. Some of the other larger town planners didn't, because they have staffs and they can have their internal communication. But the one planner groups still like the meetings, so that's something we'd like to increase. We have a number of projects that would help South Kingstown and other towns that are in the pipeline, but as a one-person shop, I only have so much capacity. And right now, it's 100 hours a week, so I just can't take anything else on right now.
Any other questions?
Okay, thank you very much.
Next is the Washington County Community Development Corporation.
Good evening. My name is Jerry Bertrand. I'm the manager at the Washington County Community Development Corporation. We provide decent, affordable housing in the Washington County area for residents of Rhode Island. One of the comments on the listing here says that our funding sources are from Rhode Island Foundation. That's incorrect. It's from Rhode Island Housing, as well as we partner with the Housing Network of Rhode Island, which is a group of all the other community development corporations in the state. and we partner with a lot of nonprofit organizations to build homes or rental property, or we build our own to provide rental properties. So we are partnering now with South County Habitat for Humanity to build 3 homes, Church Community Housing Corporation for 4 homes, and we're using funds. We're working with Jeff Marchant, the municipal CDBG funds, to build new homes in rental properties in Washington County. I want to thank the group for previous funding, and we are again asking for a level funding of $1,000 for the next budget year. You have any questions?
All right, well, thank you for your work.
All right, thank you.
There were 4 agencies that have submitted funding requests to the council for consideration in the 16-17 year. The first was Neighbors Helping Neighbors at a $1,000 request. I'm not sure if there's anyone here. And then Southern Rhode Island Volunteers, Deb Tanner.
Hi, my name is Deborah Tanner, and I am the Executive Director at Southern Rhode Island Volunteers. The agency got its start as Seniors Helping Others back in like 1980-ish in Kingston area. Started as a VISTA project and with 36 volunteers, and today we have 598 volunteers. Our service area is all of Washington County, East, West Greenwich, and Jamestown, so it encompasses a large area. So I'd like to give you a statistic. Unfortunately, this is not just for South Kingstown, because the United States Census does it by county. In 2010, there were approximately 12% of our population in this county was 65 plus. In 2014, that population has grown to 17.9%. We are aging. As we age, we need services. We did not, our agency used to receive funding from South Kingstown, but that was prior to 2000 when I became the executive director and we moved into the senior center. We had a huge space there, and in appreciation for all of that space and all of the collaboration, we did not request funding. That was part of what we negotiated and agreed to, was that we would not be asking for additional funding from the town of South Kingstown. Since that time, a number of things have changed. The senior center has grown by leaps and bounds and needs that space for all the programs that are going there. So that space they had to take back, and we do have a little less than 100 square feet there. Terry is wonderful. So we have a little place there where we can manage the Meals on Wheels program, because we manage that entire program for South Kingstown, Narragansett in partnership with Meals on Wheels of Rhode Island. So we do that out of the center. We did move to some space on the second floor in the Charlestown Senior Center, which is kind of in the middle of the service area, but everybody still across the county gets served from there. In the town of South Kingstown, on a monthly basis, we assist about 110 senior citizens. That doesn't mean it's into the thousands and thousands of people by the end of the year, because some of those people are duplicated each month, okay? We serve, each week we deliver to 42 residents, like Meals on Wheels. They get meals Mondays through Thursdays. There is no meal delivery on Friday, but they get double meals on Thursday. So the program is meant to bring them that life-sustaining meal for 5 days out of the week. We also transport people to their doctor's appointments. They just have to be residents of South Kingstown, and we'll take them to any medical appointment anywhere in the state of Rhode Island. We do not transport out of Rhode Island for insurance purposes. We have 4 people who are receiving companion services to alleviate the isolation of them being very elderly and alone, and there's like no one in their lives. 5 individuals are receiving grocery assistance from us. And then we partner with some of my wonderful colleagues here, like the Johnny Cake Center. We have an absolutely great project that we do together. Every Friday in our town, we deliver food commodities to 10 different senior households. There's about 45 people who receive 3 to 4 bags of groceries, or if they're receiving a commodity from the federal government, there's a new program where they receive like 25 pounds of food, so they might get 2 bags of groceries and the 25 pounds of food, so that it's pretty fair in terms of trying to support all of those seniors that might be in need. And then we do some yard cleanups and snow removal. And actually, one of the things I'm really proud of, I'm a South Kingstown resident, and we have 2 people who have severe health issues. One is a 98-year-old woman with Alzheimer's who lives here in South Kingstown, and my oldest son plowed her driveway each time we needed to plow this year. My youngest son also plowed, but that was in Richmond, so that doesn't count. So we look to make sure that those folks that need our help aren't forgotten, and our seniors certainly should not be forgotten. Additionally, what's happened over the last few years, after 9/11, the federal government threw $5,000 at Southern Rhode Island and said, you need to do something with Homeland Security. I'm a pretty practical person. Osama bin Laden wasn't coming here. But hurricanes come up our coastline all the time. Things happen. So I reached out to our emergency managers, and I received wonderful support from Mr. Alfred, from the chief, and a number of others. And we've put together a 36-member team that staffs the shelter at South Kingstown High School. On many occasions, I have been the shelter manager myself there, and then some of the other people. We don't always get those 36 people to come to all the drills like Bill might like, but they do come when they're needed in times of crisis. Most of the time, like the last time we sheltered there, the bulk of the 104 population was older citizens, people with condensers that needed electricity and that kind of stuff. So those are the kinds of programs we're doing, and we are asking for support because financially, we just can't keep doing the things we're doing and reaching those numbers, and unfortunately, we are aging, and we are going to face this year after year after year to continue to provide services that help our seniors to age in place. And here in South Kingstown, we have the bulk of the senior housing in our county. And my personal opinion is that it behooves us to keep our seniors in their homes, aging independently, being active, productive members of society. And in addition to those older people, we have 163 individuals who are 55 plus, who are residents of South Kingstown, who are part of that 598 volunteers. So thank you for past support. I hope you'll consider our request. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
This $6,682 seems like a very exact figure. Is that related to what it was before, or is it a certain?
No, my board likes to be exact, especially Kevin Sullivan, who's here. So I took and figured out about what does it cost us to provide services to each senior, and then how much did it cost us to provide support and training and those things for each of the volunteers who are on the team for the sheltering. Okay, so that number comes from the cost directly related to those people, right? It doesn't, like if we were to help 350 people as opposed to the 272 I mentioned, it would cost us more than what I'm telling you. But that's about what it costs us. And in terms of, I can tell you overall what our agency does each year in terms of volunteer hours. Each year, our 598 volunteers provide to the county about between 80 and 85,000 hours that we know about. Probably more, but they don't report them, so I can't report them to you. The federal value of a volunteer hour is $23 per hour. That's not quite the wage in this area, but if you took the $23, that's like $1.7 million, but it's still $1 million value that you're getting for an annual budget of $171,000 when you're looking at us overall for the county.
Sure.
When you started your presentation, you had spoken to the fact that you couldn't take necessarily everything down because you had one number for South County. What type of what type of assistance or monetary aid do you get from the other areas in South County?
Okay, yeah, that was in reference to how many people are 65. But in our county, we receive financial assistance, substantial financial assistance, like what I'm asking from you, from a few of the towns, like Westerly, Narragansett, Charlestown, are very supportive. We get a little bit less from Richmond, and that's because we don't serve quite as many people. The bulk of the people we serve are here in South Kingstown, and then Westerly is second to South Kingstown. Narragansett is third. But in addition, we have provided some assistance to Hopkinton in the past and to Jamestown and Exeter, and I have presented them with a, request this year. And honestly, if they don't step up and start to support us, I can't put resources in a place where we're not getting support. I have to put them where we are getting support. So, yeah, that's not something I like, but we might have to do that. But we have requested from all of the communities.
I think it certainly is a very valuable service that you're providing. The Meals on Wheels, amazing program.
Thank you. Yeah, food's important. And even, like, sometimes, like, we had this one client that I went to Subway and bought a sandwich for a couple of weeks ago because he couldn't do the meal. So we'll do things like that, you know what I mean? It's like, because you can't, they're our elders. We owe them that respect. So, thank you.
I know you have a lot of, you've talked about your volunteers. How many paid staff members are there?
There are 2 part-time paid staff. I am one of them as the executive director. The only full-time paid staff is the program director. And then we have just been awarded a VISTA for a year through Serve Rhode Island, another collaboration that we're doing. The VISTA's purpose is to build the volunteers 55 and over and to help promote the visibility of the agency so that seniors know where they can get those services. So there are very specific outcomes that will be driven by that VISTA being there. And that VISTA will be a full-time person. And if you don't know, VISTAs are paid for by the federal government. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next agency was the Wildlife Rehabilitation Association. I think they're here. And Hera Gallery. I provided you with any of the background information that has been provided by those agencies. I also welcome any council member to review all of the funding requests that we've received from each of the agencies. On a yearly basis, we do ask them for the information so we can get the proportionate share of what they're serving South Kingstown residents to what the overall share is for municipal contributions. That information is provided for you in the budget document. If there's no further questions as far as outside agency supports and services, we can move to tab number 7, which is the public safety program. Vivi? The chief says I always present his budget, so I'm going to let him present the entire thing. It ain't that easy. I'll start out, Ben. The budget starts on 7.1. As far as the police department's budget, I think it's pretty obvious what the mission statement is, as well as what the departmental functions are. I think one of the more important things is to look at page 7.3, which is the priorities, and talk about the things that the police department is attempting to get accomplished in the current year, and many of those are a carryover into the 16-17 year. We have been working now for the last 2.5 years as far as an accreditation program. We're getting closer on that with the accreditation. Is that what I'm doing? With the accreditation
Yeah,
program.
we're making steady progress on the accreditation program. We're moving ahead much quicker than we were this summer because we were so busy. I'll tell you candidly that we found some flaws in some of the policies that we have been reviewing, and we've made those corrections. I don't want to present a document, a accreditation document that I'm not comfortable with. So we're making steady progress. I think by May we will have achieved what we need to achieve for the accreditation process. And we're working on it diligently every day. But I want to make sure that our department, when we present an accreditation request, it's in proper form. I wouldn't do otherwise.
I think the other thing, too, is the accreditation process is there's a Rhode Island program at this point that looks at best management practices for all police departments. We're reviewing some of the best management practices, finding some flaws with that, and in fact providing recommendations for revisions on the state program as well. Under our charter, the rules and regulations associated with the police department have to be ordained through the council. So once we get done with the review and the revisions on the rules and procedures, have those go through the accreditation process at the state level, then it will come to the council in terms of a rewrite on many of the existing regulations that we have. But it's a very important component because it doesn't just deal with the police function, it deals with all the ancillary services and how those are all integrated from the police dispatch to its integration with EMS or any of the other services that are provided. I think some of the other priorities that we're continuing to work with the SRO program with the 2 offices. You may want to comment on that, Ben.
We have 2 current SROs, one in the high school and one who spreads his activities through the middle school system so that it's covered every day. As you're well aware, one SRO is cost shared with the school department. The second SRO is fully funded by the police department through our budget. They've been very well received. They're doing a good job, and I'm proud of the work that they're doing. No issues at all in the schools, and I think much of that can be attributed to the good work of the SROs.
It also provides with the supplemental assistance during the summer so that hopefully we can get the bike patrol back into the business districts or down to the Matunic area. It gives us a greater flexibility, particularly if we've got a full complement of
part of this budget here is to purchase 2 new bicycles. You're probably well aware of it, at $1,500 each. We sorely need them because there is a shelf life to these bicycles, and they're on the road all the time, and we do need these 2 new bicycles as part of the budget.
2 other programs that the department is really leading at this point is a total rehab on the information technology programming, the networking. We talked about a little of it the other night, is that we are using the IT director here to be able to redevelop the networks, as well as to be able to deal with the new security requirements for data access with the FBI and state police. That's a whole new world. There's been police departments that have had their data stolen and held ransom. Those are things that we've got to make sure, as far as firewall protections, as well as the protection of confidential data, that we're properly managing that. It's a whole new world in terms of the management systems associated with public safety when it comes to IT. We're fortunate to have, you know, a team in-house that has done this type of work on several public safety departments, and we're also working with outside agencies to be able to get that right.
I'm happy to report that we have new tablets in all the frontline vehicles as we speak tonight, which is a great addition to our fleet and our capabilities to properly patrol the areas.
Should also enhance our ticketing, because one of the problems that we had was with the units that were in the car, the laptops, we didn't have proper internet access, and you can't issue a ticket electronically without having the internet. With the beef up of the system and the internet access availability with these new units, we're able to get better service throughout the entire community. So it's those types of things that we've got to work on, because it's not the old system where you're writing the ticket by hand. It's a case where it goes through the state system for it to be issued. Those are the types of things that are necessary. The other thing that we're working on is with the radio users group and interoperability. What we're attempting to do is to make sure that we've got controls in place for each of the public safety divisions, whether it's police, EMS, fire division, state police, Narragansett Police, North Kingstown, to be able to talk to each other during emergency conditions, be able to assign group leaders who then would be in charge of incident management. All of those things have to be developed in terms of protocol, and then there has to be training done. There also has to be the acquisition of the radio equipment that's going to be able to be used universally as well.
Yeah, we have a regular committee that meets regularly, and we're fortunate enough to have the availability of a grant. Was it $76,000? So we're moving along with that, so we'd like to achieve that within the coming year if we can.
So those are the types of priorities. If we move on to 7.4.
Just had a quick question.
Sure.
I saw in the news recently that there's a national campaign for addressing sexual assaults on campus, and I just wanted to know how SK is partnering with Day One. I know they've reached out to a lot of municipalities with this new national campaign this year.
For decades, we've had a wonderful relationship with the campus police department. We are a component of everything that they do. We have partnered with Day One for as long as I've been around South Kingston.
So forever?
So we're going to be, that's right, we're going to be a component of whatever they do. Okay. All right. You can be assured of that.
The spec shows the number of division members that we have in patrol or detective administrative. This is just some general information as far as the number of calls. On an annual basis, the chief issues a performance report in January that talks about all of the different calls and the types of calls that we're managing through the department at this point. So I'm not going to belabor that. The goals, again, are to continue to be able to finish with the accreditation, deal with the IT, and to deal with both capital budget, because it's an interesting setup for public safety in South Kingstown, because without having an in-house fire department, the chief's also responsible for the EMS and for all of emergency management. So it's a different coordinated effort than you will find where you've got separation of responsibilities with the fire department. Not to say that we don't work very closely with the fire department, because we do, but in terms of us managing it from a municipal perspective, that everything goes through, whether it's for the dog program, or whether it's for EMS, or the Harbor Master program. The only thing that we don't have right now is the communications division, which eventually will end up going back into that direction. But the overall budget, which is shown on page 7.6, is presenting a very pretty picture, which isn't as rosy as it should be. Because the $90,000 in the crossing guards is resident to the current year 15-16, it makes it look like he's going up by 2.3%. Actually, it's closer to about 3.1 if you were to minus out the value of the crossing guards out of the part-time salaries. So instead of it being 116, if it was down at 30, you would be picking up that 90. So you're seeing it's going from 116 to 28. But, I mean, for full disclosure, that's where the relationship will be, up at around 3% with the police department. Some of the issues that we're looking at is the 6% increase in terms of pension contributions, which are set through state regulation. When you got a department that's got salaries in the $5 million range, you start taking a 25% on a portion of those salaries that has to go to pension, it starts to drive those numbers up. Healthcare is not a problem here. We haven't seen much of a change in terms of the shift to the family versus individuals. We did see a little bit of change where we've got more buybacks, which is good for us because with the buybacks, we're not paying for full services. Electricity, we are seeing that amount edging up. Some of that, I think, is related to some of the new equipments that are going into the station. Also, I think the fuels and lubricants, we've squeezed that based on the price of fuel, particularly for the vehicles going down. One of the large line items, and I mentioned this on Monday night, is the amount of motor vehicles and whether or not at some future date that should be moved out of the operating account and brought into either a capital program or some other program which would identify those. Right now, we are keeping the vehicles. They're over a $10,000 value, obviously, and we are keeping them in excess of 5 years on average. So they can fit on a capital explanation, but they do demonstrate a cost here that really isn't operational in nature, but ancillary to the operation of the department. Revenue-wise, the department brings in about $300,000 in terms of third-party revenues. Major revenue there would be the rental of the police cars. That's totaling about $120,000 that we're forecasting for next year. This year, it's probably going to be closer to, what, about 160? Probably 160. If, in fact, the High Street project gets underway and some of the other road projects that are supposed to be underway, that 120 we should be able to meet that without problem. As I said, in a way, if we can use the rental of the motor vehicles to replace the vehicles and get that closer to a wash, it may be advantageous for us to start that out as one of the first elements of a equipment acquisition fund for public safety vehicles. Because the same holds true when we deal with EMS replacements. We have that in the capital budget because those units are $200,000. But I think if we brought those things out of here, which spike budgets in certain years, it would provide us with an opportunity to say, what's the annual appropriation that's necessary, have those dollars in place so that when we need to do the replacements, we've got the money to do it. One of the other problems that we run into is that with the police department, other than VINs driving, we end up with the loss of several cars a year. Based on the age of those vehicles,
I'm a senior citizen. Do you understand? You can't abuse me.
that's why the rates went up. But what we see is that as far as insurance is concerned, you replace based on the value of the vehicle is what you're going to get in an insurance settlement. So if we're trading out vehicles that have got a 50% depreciation on them at that point, we need the flexibility to be able to manage those rather than having those at the whim of changing the operational accounts. So there's a lot of good reasons for us to look at that. I'm not sure how we'll present that in the future, but I think it's something that we will look at as we go forward. Are there questions as far as the police budgets are concerned?
I just had one quick question. I'm looking at the expenditures, and I noticed the safety-related materials and supplies went from $13,000 in 2015 up to 23,000, and I was just wondering what that category consists of. It is 540058.
Oh, yeah, sure. That's our ammunition,
Oh.
and also equipment for the tasers, the tasers. It's pretty expensive.
Okay.
And we're required to obviously train
Oh, yeah.
and qualify with both weapons, whether it be the firearm or the taser. And that's the reason why that's an additional expense.
So that just continues, that price, you see it continue to rise over the years.
I mean, all of our officers are required to qualify on an annual basis.
Mhm. We qualify more often than most police departments. We actually qualify twice a year when the law requires you only need to qualify once a year. But I think that's a benefit. That's a benefit that I think is important.
Thank you.
You don't, but I do.
The last time I had to shoot your targets just to get you to pass. The next item, if there's no questions on the police budget, is the, oh, wait a minute, I think that was Chief Salisbury. Is the Animal Control Road Program. Again, as far as the animal control programs, we run two divisions, one for the road program, which is separate from the shelter itself. The enforcement with the animal shelter, let me go back to the road program. We have really one full-time employee, and we have two part-time individuals that work either the weekends or during the summer months, during the from 4 to 8. When we get, a lot of times, the complaints that we receive are usually after 5 o'clock once the full-time officer is gone. So we've had to have that type of hours available. On the shelter program, there really haven't been any changes in that program over the past 2 years. Once we get into the new shelter, we had to make modifications on the HVAC system. Since those improvements have been made, the cost of the utilities has stabilized. It is a large shelter. There is a lot of traffic through it. We're averaging about 350 impoundments a year. Some of those impoundments may be overnight. Other impoundments may be quarantined for a 60-day period. If we have animals that are quarantined as a result of coming in contact with a potential rabid animal, then the period of time is substantial. I think it's 60 days at this point. So we provide for those different types of services. Overall, between the road program and the shelter, we're talking about a 1.7, 1.8% increase, or about $5,600 over the current year. The priorities and the goals are the same as that they have been in terms of best protection for the animals that come into our care. This is another regional program where $70,000 of the overall cost is paid for through the town of Narragansett. I don't think a lot of people understand the number of programs that we have that we share with Narragansett in terms of shared services. For us to run a shelter by ourselves, it would cost us the same amount of money, the $225,000. Narragansett's participation at that $70,000 level and is very important to us because it provides them with direct access into the shelter. Their road program can access the shelter 24/7. There's a holding area set aside just for impoundments before they're actually taken in to the shelter itself through our employees. So all of that is set up with the new facility. I think it's working well. We're probably handling a larger cat population than we are a canine population, which is really what we've seen probably over the last 5 years. That hasn't changed much at all.
No. The town can be really proud of our animal shelter system. It's well-run, and they do a great job there. And we're fortunate enough not only to have one ACO, but two assistants. And they're really busy. They're really busy. And they take a burden off the police department by the fact that they're out on the road taking care of animal complaints.
And we've got a new vehicle that will be
Right,
coming. We're
right.
out to bid on that to replace the truck. We'll be using the same equipment, but we'll be changing the body itself. So that's in way that came through the capital budget. I think it was funded for the current year. It's on order now? Okay, and then if we move on, if there's no questions, the Harbor Patrol Program. The Harbor Patrol Program, and for those that haven't met, Mike Stack is our harbor master. And come on up, Michael. We'll introduce you to the council. And he is in his real second year, I guess you would call it, in terms of our harbor program. Michael, why don't you give me a little bit of background as far as your DEM representation?
Sure. Good evening. My name is Mike Stack, and I'm actually, my full-time job is as a State Marine Patrol officer with DEM, as a Fish and Game officer. I've been on the job for 12 years there. The entire time I've been assigned to the Marine Patrol unit. Part of our qualifications, they send us down to the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center after we graduate the Rhode Island Municipal Academy for a month-long boat training, all our boat training. Additionally, currently, I'm in the process of becoming a nationally accredited boat operator instructor for public safety agencies throughout the country. I'm one of the state boat accident investigation officers, and do reconstructions of all recreational boat accidents, along with other members of the team that happen in state waters. Boating's my passion. I've been doing it. That's the job I wanted, and the harbor master position became available, and I feel like it's a pretty natural fit to work that in conjunction with my work with the state.
Lives in town, he's on the water. It provides us with, as you can see, a great deal of service in terms of the background that he brings to the job. Harbor program is one of those programs that we're trying to expand in terms of the size, but it's not a program that, right now we're looking at about a 20% increase in the size of the program. But most of that is that what we're looking to do is to have a 15-week program during the summer where we've got 40 hours or 2 assistants that are on the water. So we get about 600 hours that would be on the water during the summer at a rate of $15 an hour, which will end up giving us a cost of about $15 an hour, $18,000 for the assistants. The harbor master, for Mike's position, we're forecasting 150-hour availability for him to manage our operations for another $3,300. And then we've got a stipend that goes to Michael as the mooring officer for another $2,500. So overall, you got $2,300, up from the $20,000 that we had in the current year. It's a program that we will look at in terms of on a yearly basis as to whether we can expand that or if there's a need for it based on the number of complaints that we're receiving. I would say that the mooring program itself, once it's, at this point, we're anticipating between $32,000 and $34,000 in income from that program. So for the most part, this program is self-supporting. Unfortunately, just the moorings, we're providing services for a great deal more boaters than just the people that are paying for moorings. So in terms of municipal share that would go into this program, additional dollars may be necessary, but there needs to be documentation on that need at this point. So the best I could do is to get that up to the funding level that we have proposed in the budget document today. I'm sure, from Michael's perspective, we could have had a lot more hours that would be necessary, but this is a program that we need to grow based on demands rather than just putting more hours out there. So if we see a need for it, it'll go through the police chief, as to whether that need exists and to what extent. We're still operating with how many boats? 3 boats at this point?
We have 3 boats at this point. The newest boat, which is our primary patrol boat, is a 2000. That boat receives new outboard power as needed. The other 2 boats, one is a 1995 boat, and that's starting to show its age. And the other boat, the 3rd boat, was actually a former state Marine Patrol boat that was given to the town around 2006, 2007. And so that boat had a hard life, and it's serving us well as a backup, and also being able to use it in some of the waters that we don't use the primary boat, which is kept down in the pond for. But it's 1990, so it's really showing its age.
Any questions on the harbor program? If not, we'll move on. Mike, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
The next is the Communications Department. Lance Whaley is our superintendent for communications. This program we've talked about both in the capital budget, and we talked about it on Monday night, and it's part of my budget message in terms of a program that we really need to start paying attention to in terms of defining where we're going over the next 5 to 10 years. Right now, we're operating a system with, there were 200 call boxes. We're probably down to about 160 at this point. But we're operating, 10 circuits and 9 alarm circuits on a hardwire system. The hardwire goes back to the late 60s, the early 70s as far as its installation. And in many cases, it's become very fragile. And once it's been spliced, it's very difficult to be able to reuse it without restringing. Right now, during that last storm that we had, there was a break in the line out to West Kingston. There's probably about 1,000 feet of wire that's going to need to be relayed, a new wire that's going to have to be installed. I don't think that keeping up with a wire-based system in a community with as many trees as we have, and a system that's as old as we have, and a system that also has underground wire that's, with the wetness in the conduits, we're having faults every time we have rainstorms. This is too important a service for us to have inactivity or unavailability of services. What we're anticipating is that the evaluation will tell us how we can keep the system in place until we can provide for a viable replacement. Technology today would be a wireless system which would require new equipment installed at the dispatch center, as well as equipment at each of the different facilities, whether it's the municipal facilities or any of the 260 or 240 businesses that, by state fire code requirements, have to have alarm systems. With that as an introduction, I'll let Lance just talk about who's required to have the alarm system, and also, if we go to a wireless system, what that means to the business owner in terms of testing, because the new systems would be self-testing.
Correct. Just so you know, the cable plant we have also does the town burglar alarm systems for all the town buildings, and a few high-speed internet also is over these 40, 50-year-old cables, and they constantly have to be maintained. And the wireless systems will also be able to take the burglar alarm from the town-owned buildings, schools, and, so on, to be wireless also, so they can come off of the wires. So other than that, it's really, really a simple process. Get rid of the wire, go to the new age with wireless.
I think our concern is the cost to the businesses, because one of the things, well, or any of the buildings, because these new systems will also be able to identify for the fire department exactly where the trouble is in the building, so that there'll be enunciated panels so that you'll know whether it's second floor, third room, or whether it's the basement, those types of things. With that, it depends on what the businesses are going to want to put in. There's code in place as to what they have to have as a minimum, but some of the systems, depending on what the person wants, can be quite elaborate, but provides probably better protection and may in fact be beneficial to them in terms of insurance purposes concerned. What I want the study to do is to identify what those systems costs would be, so that then we can propose to the council a period of time to incorporate that into the system. A lot of towns are talking about like a 5-year phase-in. And so what you're doing for the first 5 years is saying to people, if you need a new system, once we get the headworks in place at the police station, then each of the businesses would be able to go wireless in their own location, come off of the hard wire, and as every new business came on, the system would become stronger because they all report to each other. They bounce off of each other. So what we would be looking at is saying to people, you got a 5-year period where you're going to need to change over the equipment. In most towns, what we've seen is the 5-year comes and goes, and then it becomes 8 years. And it's a case where eventually you're going to end up with a situation where you can't maintain the integrity of the wire, and those systems are going to be, those businesses will be required to put it in. I saw one ordinance where what they attempted to do was to charge a license fee and hold that money in an escrow account to be able to lessen, when the person went to buy it, they would buy it at 50% of the cost as long as they had contributed over a 3-year or 4-year period the monies that are necessary. In other words, you force the business or the property owner into pre-buying it so that when the time comes to put the equipment in, it's not going to be a hardship on them to be able to put it in. Until we know exactly what the system cost would be and the unit cost would be in each of the buildings, we're not going to know really how we would fashion the ordinance. So the first component of the study is that we would find out what those costs would be, both for the headworks itself and for the reporting stations themselves, which would each be located in a different building, different business, or a school building or a municipal building. So it's a cost that the municipality and the school districts will pick up, as well as the businesses that are required. Because right now, what's the size of the commercial that has to have the reporting system?
I believe it's 10,000 square feet.
And it's any residential units of more than 4 units, or any residential unit that has a combined fire, alarm, and security system. All of those have to go through. So we're talking in the 240 range right now. One of the other things that we're looking at is that all of the fire horns in town are powered through the wire system. Those those systems themselves are in need of replacement because we can't get parts for the things that go back to the 1960s. What we're looking at there is that there's already 2 means of getting to the fire offices. Everybody has a pager, and what's the second means? The cell phones.
It's a paging system on the cell phone.
So we've got dual means rather than just having the alarm but these are all things that over the next probably 5 years, we're going to see a new system that's going to need to be developed that will take us into the 21st century in terms of what the technology. I think it's an improvement for the community. Certainly there's going to be some cost both on the municipal school purpose, but the business as well. What we need to do is just figure what's the best way of advancing that system, giving people full knowledge of what the benefits of it are and what the costs are going to be, and then determine how do we phase it in. One of the things that we'll end up doing is really establishing a proprietary system, because we'll go with one vendor type. There's probably 3 or 4 different systems that are out there. We'll have to determine which one would be for South Kingstown. This system, I believe, is underway in Narragansett and underway in North Kingstown as far as the phase-ins. They're running into the same difficulties that we are in terms of the copper-based wires that are really getting to the end of their useful life. The department operates with 2 full-time positions and a part-time position. Overall, salary and benefits is $220 of the $255,000 in the operation. We do maintain 2 bucket trucks and one panel truck within this division itself. One of the things that I think I wanted to point out is that through Lance's activities, we've been able to coordinate with the fire district, with the Union Fire District, for us not to have call-outs at night to shut off alarms. Many times in electrical storms, we end up with alarms that go off where there is no fire, and we have to send out one of the 2 employees or the part-time employee with a 3-hour callback to be able to pay for that. We have provided a training program and an agreement through the fire district for their captains and lieutenants who are first on scene to be able to shut down the alarm system itself without us having to put town personnel out for that 3-hour callback. We're estimating this year we've saved 50 callbacks on that, and it'll go up next year. Certainly, this takes very close coordination with the fire chief and to do the training with those folks. I mean, it's certainly good since Lance also serves as a deputy chief. So what we're trying to do is to marry those types of activities where we can do more together at less cost. So I think that's an improvement in terms of what the overtime requirements will be. We still want to see what it looks like in reality, because what we're also finding is that there are more call-outs on actual work requirements. So we're not really dropping the overtime this year, but we'll see how we end up. But there is a considerable saving that will be coming forward based on the change in that system. And again, I thank the fire district for agreeing to the memorandum of agreement with us to be able to provide that service with the town. And I think also it's a benefit to the fire district, because if we've got an alarm, as we did at the Holiday Inn, and it takes us a longer period of time to get there to shut off the alarm, everybody who's in those rooms has to stay out of their rooms until we can shut the alarm. If the fire department gets there and is able to shut that alarm down, then it's good for the business, and it certainly is better for the businesses in town. So again, I thank Lance for working with the district in terms of being able to come up with that type of support. Lance is also involved with the interoperability study that Chief's working with, and coordination with the state, where they'll be reprogramming our radios so that we can get that coordination. There certainly will be a need for more radios, but I think if we can get the stations set, we'll at least be in a much better position than we have been in the past. So again, there's good coordination going with these different public safety entities.
I just had a quick question. You're mentioning the fire horns and how it's hard to find parts for them because they're pretty old. Do any other municipalities in the state use fire horns, or is it just South Kingstown?
Just us.
Just us, okay. So are you thinking when we replace, or when we update the fire alarm system, that we may phase them out, or?
There's different types of horns that we could use, a resonating horn.
Okay.
Or there would be discussion somewhere else to see if we were going to keep those or not.
Okay.
What we're trying to do is to determine from the fire departments what services they would need and how we can work with them on that. Our concern is that if we can't get the parts to replace on those horns, and the maintenance on them is becoming overwhelming, particularly when we already have 2 means of communication and we're not running into problems as far as notification for emergencies. If there's no other questions, we can jump into EMS. Bill Howe, our director, is with us, and again, he works closely with the chief in terms of dealing with the EMS as well as emergency management. So we're doing emergency medical, But Bill has also taken on the responsibilities as deputy for the chief in terms of us dealing with emergency management. So if we end up opening a shelter, he's working in coordination with Deb Tanner in terms of being able to coordinate those type of activities, because if we open a shelter, we have to have both police services at the shelter and EMS services at the shelter. We've coordinated those activities with Narragansett so that if we're a multi-day operation, we can have Narragansett staff the police and EMS for one night, and we can staff the next so that we can hold back on some of our costs, because with a limited department of 15 members, we're stretched pretty thin during emergency conditions. So with that, I'll just introduce Bill and ask him to give you a general statement as far as where we are with EMS.
Good evening, folks. As Mr. Alfred mentioned, I do work closely with Narragansett and some of the other communities for emergency management, shelter evacuations, that sort of thing. In fact, 2 weeks ago, we conducted a multi-jurisdictional drill in Narragansett, where Narragansett, Jamestown, South Kingstown, Narragansett got together and put together what's called a medication dispensing exercise, and it was pretty successful. What we determined was, however, the reality of the situation is if there were ever to be a mass dispensing, such as a vaccination and so forth, the 12 key players that worked very closely together during that exercise would essentially be on their own, because each town would likely have to do simultaneous pods. So we do rely on the CERT team, of which Deb Tanner is the lead. However, Narragansett and us share the same teams. We typically dip into the same well. So oftentimes volunteers can be kind of tough, and as Mr. Alfred pointed out, if we open shelters and that sort of thing, that we have to have, by regulation, police and fire and EMS presence there. We currently operate 2 24-hour-a-day ambulances with a 24-hour-a-day supervisor. We are the only municipality in the state of Rhode Island that offers paramedic level service 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're pretty proud of that. And we are the model, I think, for the state, and we have a kind of unique system here. We've just gotten 3 new employees, one from Nevada, one from Utah, and one from a local person. So we're fully staffed. We do have a couple of folks that are still out on OJI, but we expect them to return by the end of the month, and we'll be fully staffed, and we'll be in pretty good shape.
Our overall budget that we're looking at with the department is at $1,650,000. It's up about 2.7% off the current year. I think you'll see that when you look at part-time salaries and overtime, those flip-flop based on where we stand with full-time complement. If we've got a full-time complement, we'll see the full-time salaries and the amount of overtime being the higher number. If we end up where we're down as far as full-time people based on either OJIs or just the hiring recruitment, you'll see the part-time per diems numbers going higher. So one way or the other, you're looking at personnel costs in the $1.17 million cost. You can see that we've changed over a good deal of the personnel in terms of medical expenses, and those are going up by 17% because of the shifts that we're seeing in terms of what the requirements are for family versus individual coverages. Same thing with your dentals. Fuel and lubricants, we're down, as we are in each of the different departments, where we've squeezed those fuel accounts down by several $1,000s. We're also, if you look at the equipment, our equipment needs for the 2017 year are down considerably from what they were in the current year. That's not to say that 17-18 won't be back up. It's usually on somewhat of a cycle in terms of replacement of some of those equipments. There's still a capital budget that this department has, which has got major costs associated with it, both the vehicle as well as the replacement of diagnostic equipment and the replacement of the stretchers. Based on changes in federal requirements and best management practices, the new stretcher requirements, but they have to fit differently in the transport vehicle. We're purchasing those units so that we'll have all 3 of our rigs set up properly to meet those standards. You may want to talk about those because those are important to us. One of the biggest problems with EMS personnel is back injuries. based on having to carry people down multiple flights of stairs or with twisting staircases. And sometimes the people are of good size that have to be transported. So if we can deal with stretchers that will provide us greater accommodation, we're hopeful that we can reduce the amount of lost productive time for the injuries on duty.
As Mr. Alfred pointed out, there are regulations. The National Fire Protection Association Standard Number 1977 requires some sort of lifting device to get the stretcher up into the vehicle. In last year's capital budget, $40,000 was allocated for one of the units. It has yet to be finished and installed, and you'll notice in this year's capital budget another $40,000 has been requested for 16-17. The price increase since that first capital budget that Mike DeMello put in has increased. I've spoken recently with Stryker, the only company that actually makes these things, and the current price is about $45,000. I explained to them what budget constraints we're working with, and they said that they could do $40,000, so they would knock it down to the money that we actually have allocated for that. So we can put them both in. As Mr. Alfred pointed out, we don't have a full-time fire department, so oftentimes the patient is lifted by the 2 or 3 staff that are present, which, you know, the stretchers, the non-powered stretchers are about 90 pounds. The ones with the power lift devices are about 150 pounds. Add that to the weight of the person on them, it can be quite significant, even divided 3 ways. So this device actually picks the stretcher up and just slides it in. A lot of other communities use them right now, and we hope to have them installed with the new ambulance that we should get sometime this year.
Other questions the council may have as far as EMS? Why don't you just run through first as far as first responder vehicle and responsibilities on transport rig?
Yes, sir. As you know, we have 2 transporting ambulances. One of them works 24 hours a day. One of them operates from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. In addition to that, we do have a non-transporting vehicle that's operated by the EMS lieutenant. The EMS lieutenant goes to every single call. If we have multiple calls, they will choose which is the more serious call to go on. We also handle 3rd calls in a row, so if that were to happen, we can handle 2 calls, plus the supervisor will go to another call with a mutual aid truck. We're also called on quite frequently to the University of Rhode Island to assist their basic life support ambulance and provide ALS to that community as well. On an infrequent basis, we'll also go to Charlestown when they're unable to provide ALS service. We'll provide ALS service to Charlestown as well.
That's about it.
What's the difference between our services versus the Life Pack services? Because we don't have that down here.
LifePack offers a transportation service, so they'll do critical care transports. They don't do service to scenes. We will service the scenes. We also do transports from South County Hospital to Rhode Island if that needs to happen. In years past, we would transport South Kingstown residents who arrive to South County from Narragansett or from Charlestown and transport those. We've come to an agreement with South County that if any transport they need, regardless of the location where the patient came from or what town they live in, if there is a critical patient at South County that needs to go north, they will call us. Now, there is 2 or 3 ambulances that have bases in towns that have contracts with South County. They'll call them first, but if their response is going to be delayed in any way, we will do a 911 response to the hospital and do that critical care transport. But LifePack, they're a transport service where we're providing scene-level service. We don't do ordinary transports on a day-to-day basis.
We can't do those because if we're out of town and we've got emergency calls, we're vulnerable on that. So the only thing we're going to deal with is anything that's of an emergency nature. That's all we can do. You know, we've got to coordinate too with the different nursing homes because some of the nursing homes had instituted policies of if someone falls, they were not allowing their staff to pick the people up, and they were calling us in to be able to do initial services just to get persons back into a bed. We've been able to coordinate with those, and I think got good working relationships, but it's a community service, and we've got to make sure that we don't allow for service deliveries that are going to take us away from what our prime directive is. The other thing I wanted to mention is that as far as revenue for this department, we're transferring about $590,000 into the general fund from the EMS billing system. EMS billing, we bill the insurance carriers for different people that are using our services. Most of it may come through Medicare or Medicaid dollars, or through Blue Cross United payments. Those payments come into the fund and are held there, and we will transfer a certain dollar amount on an annual basis to defray what the operational costs are. At this point, we can also use those dollars to be able to defray some of the cost of capital if, in fact, there's capital needs that haven't been budgeted for. I think at this point, we've got a couple of $100,000 that's available within that fund that we have not made use of, but would be available as we go forward in terms of meeting departmental needs.
Bill, can you tell me about the building improvements under your goals and objectives for the South Station?
The building improvements? Absolutely. I've been meeting with John Schock and Josh Rosen, and we've gone over the plans. I reviewed them over the past 2 weeks to make sure that the vehicles that are going to go in those garages, make sure they fit. So we measured all of them. It would be unfortunate if, because vehicles are getting larger, and in anticipation of vehicle purchases, we measured the vehicles that we have, top, front, back, sideways, and any new vehicles that are coming out. And I've closely looked at the plans, and the garage that was proposed prior to my appointment is plenty big enough to house any size ambulance that the town would purchase. We are switching to gasoline engines as of this year, which should save on maintenance and on fuel costs. It allows us to put a bigger box on, so even with a larger box, we would be able to fit in the garage adequately, and so there should be no vehicles outside once the project is completed, which we hope to break ground hopefully pretty soon.
And then I see the grant funding that you received in here. What did that go towards?
The grant for?
It just says grant funding received $45,000 for last year. I just was curious as to what that was directed for.
I don't know.
It's.
We received last year before, if it came before July, I don't know.
See, it was, let's see, 2015, 2016, $45,000 grant.
Yes.
Oh, that was for gear? Oh, okay, that was for extrication gear.
Okay.
Because again, we've got to work with the fire department at the scenes to be able to get people extricated from the cars.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions as far as EMS is concerned? If not,
thank you.
As you see, he's in uniform tonight because he's actually working a shift. That brings us to go to tab 11. Jackie, I want to thank you for keeping the chief straight for one more year.
Poor Chief
It's a hard job. She said that, not me, Vinnie. If we go to 11-1, this is the insurances and claims division of the budget. This is the part that we talked about the other night as not being assignable to any specific departments. This is the municipal insurance. This is all of our property liability. We're seeing a major increase there. I do want to mention that we provide general liability insurance claims up to $5 million. The trust has that program set up where the initial $1 million is there. We buy the extra $4 million so that we've got that type of coverage in place. As far as unemployment is concerned, we're required to pay on unemployment on a direct dollar-for-dollar basis. Unlike businesses that pay a percentage of salary, we pay on the exact cost that goes out. So far this year, we've got little, if no, expense on this line item, but if we have people go out next year, we'll have to have that $10,000 as a placeholder. Workers' comp is becoming more expensive on a yearly basis. Two specific reasons. One is the cost of medical costs continue to escalate, but more importantly, as wages go up, the amount of repayment that's necessary during a time of absences is going up as well. The trust has a very good risk management program, and we're doing a lot with them in terms of training sessions on lifting, those types of things. We're doing analysis of job workplace and what things need to be done differently. The use of the safety goggles, the use of the gloves, and those types of things. All of that's being integrated in there as a means of trying to reduce what our claims experience is with comp. The fund contingency is the $65,000 placeholder that's in the budget on a yearly basis if we need dollars for some certain projects that are of an emergency nature, or if the council feels after budget's adopted that something needs to be accomplished, they would have that flexibility there. We've left it at $65,000 for several years now. If we looked at what management practices suggest, that it should be no less than 0.5%, that would put it up at $115,000 to $230,000. I don't see any necessity for anything of that nature, but baselining it at 65, I think, is appropriate. The town health care, that's somewhat of a misnomer of a name, because actually what that is the OPEB payment of $350,000. We pay 100% of the OPEB requirements. Several communities do not. We do. At this point, our OPEB trust fund, which is an irrevocable trust fund that the council authorized about 4 years ago, I think it was 4 years ago, now is at about 28.5% funded of the liability. So we're in one of the highest rate of funding that's set aside within our trust funds of any community. I think Westerly may be just a little bit ahead of us at this point. But we will continue to meet what our requirements are. We do have to do studies on a yearly basis to be able to determine whether or not the value for both South Kingstown Town and South Kingstown Schools, what that OPEB requirement is, based on any changes in contracts, salary levels, or any type of employment conditions would change those types of things. The liability is higher on the municipal side than it is on the school side, because on the municipal side, you've got paid health care through age 65 for police and EMS. You've also got stipends that are required for non-public safety personnel, which we have to account for in terms of establishing what the OPEB value for the unfunded liability. Do you know what that liability is? 18 million, of which we've got 28% at this point. And the 18 million is inclusive of just of school and town. So that's system-wide for us. It's a very low dollar amount in relation to several of the communities. So we put our 350 in. The school department has, I think, 270, 175 that goes in from their budget on a yearly basis that goes in to the trust fund. The money in the trust fund is invested. We have an investment policy that we use for that investment to try to generate additional income. Some of the OPEB trust funds that have been set up allow people to pay current year liabilities from that trust fund. We do not. What we're doing is we're funding current liabilities. So you'll see, like in the police department, you see health care for retirees. We're funding that on a dollar-for-dollar basis in the year in which it's paid out, rather than putting money in this year into the trust fund and taking money out next year to pay that same liability. It doesn't make a lot of sense to have the money going in and out. The other thing it does is it precludes or reduces our ability to earn investment income, because the money has to be held in shorter-term investments. That's a summary of the $990,000 that's in that section of the general fund. That concludes the general fund, and the only fund that we have left to discuss is under tab 16, which is the debt service fund. And I think we've already really gone over that in the budget message, and we certainly can answer any questions. Again, this is a first-year program that's been set up, and what we're looking to do is to be able to protect the integrity of our bond rating, to be able to look for reinvestment opportunities where we can refinance when we think we can save additional money from existing bonds, and we're going to be able to isolate what the cost is for debt service for school bonds and municipal bonds. As you can see from the program, what we're looking at is the combination. On page 16, 16-3, you can see that education debt service requirements will be $1,228,000, and municipals will be at $741,000. So a total of $1,969,000 that's available. When I talked to you on Monday night, I talked about the fact that we're also proposing within the debt service fund is a property tax appropriation policy to be instituted. And that policy would be where we would look, when you have a declining debt service requirement, yet an increasing debt service requirement based on future bond sales in the immediate future, that it would allow you not to go down to the net amount that's necessary. If you go back to page 2-28, because I want to make sure folks understand that. On page 2-28, I've given you a schedule of what we expect the debt service payments to be over the next 6 years. And this is right out of our capital budget. And so what we're indicating is that we would need property tax supports of $1.4 million in 16, $1.2 million in 17, 1.275. What we're trying to do is to keep that so that there's no spiking that's occurring. If we don't take that step, right now in the 2015-16 year, our debt requirement's $1,370,000. If we took just what we needed to pay the 16-17 year, we'd only have to appropriate $988,000. But if we did that, we'd take that 1 year savings, and the following year, once we bond $6.1 million, that debt service is going to jump up to $1.5 million. So you'd end up having to pick up a $550,000 spike in your debt service requirements. Obviously, that's a combination of the two. When we did the refinancing in December of last year, we're saving $64,000 in what was appropriated for the current year. So what we'll do is we'll take that money from the general fund, put it into the debt service fund, and on June 30th of 2016, there'll be $64,000 in undesignated funds. If we fund this 2016-17 year at the $1.2 million level, rather than funding it at $988,000, then we'll have $211,000 that will go in along with the 64, and we'll have $275,000 in on June 30th of 2017. In the 17-18 year is the first year that we'll be paying debt service on that $4.1 million for the rec center and $1 million for the school. So that $5.5 million will have a first-year debt interest and principal payment that would drive that cost up to 1.5. We'll only have to put in this 18-year $1,275,000 in, because we're going to use $240,000 of the money that's in fund balance. And as you can see, as we go forward, once you get past the first couple of years on any debt that enters your system, it starts to decline, because we work with, our debt is based on equal principal payments, which means that every year on $1 million, you're going to pay less than you did the prior year. Unlike your conventional mortgage, that you pay the same dollar amount for 25 years, here we start out with it's $1 million. If it's at 4%, we know that our payments are going to be $90,000. In the second year, it's going to be $88,000. In the third year, it's going to be $86,000, and it goes down accordingly until you get down. The reason we do that is so that when we do debt loading, you've got a declining payment structure on existing debt. So when new debt's introduced, there should be, it's easy to bring it in. You don't want to have a debt of $1 million that in the 19th year, you're still paying full boat price on, because you need to be able to integrate the replacement to keep that asset well maintained. So with a policy that would look at us being able to over-appropriate or under-appropriate based on taking the spikes out of the debt service requirements, we think that this would be the best way of handling it. This also gives you an opportunity to have the taxpayer see exactly how much property tax is going in to pay for debt. Because as you can see, going back to the debt service fund, we've got a total payment requirement of $2,181,000, but only $1.2 million is coming from property tax. The rest is coming from either the school aid, construction aid, or the impact fee money, or the South Road Reserve monies that are being used on the improvements that are going on to South Road School. So for 17-18, what we're suggesting is to have municipal debt service of $550,000, school debt service of $650,000, which would give us that $1.2 million. And then we would go through that. By the time you get out to the year 2022, it says you'd have 81,000. I think you'd have far more than that, because I don't expect, based on what market conditions are, if they don't change substantially, which I don't think they're going to by June of 2017, I don't expect us to have 4% interest requirements on those $5.1 million in bonds. So when the debt service will be less, it means that the debt interest payments will be less. So we may be able to even take that $1,275,000 down to $1,250,000. But I don't want to see you make the mistake of going down to $988 and then having to go up by the $530,000, because it's really, it doesn't make a lot of financial sense for us to handle it that way. But with a debt service fund, this way the council can see it and decide whether it's appropriate on a year-to-year basis as to how much we're going to use. That's the best ideas we can give you on that. Are there any questions on how we're looking to proceed with that? If not, that really concludes the presentation of my budget. The only thing that'll be left is for us to deal with the school budget next week. I do want you to go back to the schedule of meetings, because I want to make sure that, I think that's in tab 3, and it should be on 311, I think. I'm sorry, 3.3. Right now, you're scheduled to meet with the school department for your budget session on Wednesday, the 11th of March. You're also scheduled to adopt the budget on Monday, the 14th, which is a regular town council meeting. Now, sometime between the time we meet with the schools and the 14th, we need to have a meaningful discussion for the council as to any modifications or changes that you want to make in the budget, if there are any. But if there are, we need to discuss that. My question to you is, would you want on the 14th to start your meeting as a work session, say at 5:30, to discuss your budget so that you're prepared to adopt the budget at that meeting on the 14th with whatever amendments you agree to? Or do you want to change it? You know, our problem is we have to get a preliminary budget adopted by the council. We then have to submit it to the state before we can advertise it in the newspaper for the public hearings in April. So it really puts a crunch on you in terms of being able to get it out. I mean, if you wanted to say, no, I don't want to do it on the 14th, I'd rather do it, have Tuesday night for us to come in, have that as a session. We can post it as a full meeting, and we can have a work session before. But it depends on how much time you feel you'd like to dedicate to discussion on revisions to the budget before you get to a point where you're actually adopting the budget. So we can't do that for you. You've got to tell us what you want for time schedule. You could do it if there's not a lot to be changed, I think on the 14th by meeting at 5:30. Or if you feel that it's going to take more than an hour and a half of discussion, then tell us. We'll post Tuesday night for a budget adoption, have you start at 6:30 and post the actual meeting, the public meeting, for a later time. but you're going to need to tell us what you want to do. And again, the reason we need to know pretty soon is because we got to do the posting. Next week, you know, if we can get the answer after we meet with the school department of what you want to do, that's fine, because Dale will be able to either have the adoption for the night of the regular council meeting on the 14th, or she can post a meeting for Tuesday the 15th. I don't think we can get past the 15th, but I also don't want to hurry the process here in terms of what you need to accomplish.
I can do the 14th at 5:30.
I would prefer that. I'm not going to be here the 15th. I'm flying out for 2 weeks.
I'm good with-
All right, so you want to do it on the 14th?
Yeah.
And if you want, we can start it at 5 o'clock. If you want to do that, I'll have Trish buy pizza.
I'm wide open.
Sure.
What's that?
I'm wide open.
Yeah,
so-
that works for me. I can be
I
available.
mean, if you want to do it on the 14th, then we'll just, you know, if you want to do it 14th, you want to start at 5:30, or want to start at 6? It's up to you.
Let's start at 5.
Start
Let's
at 5.
just get it.
Start at 5?
And there's no.
All right, so we'll post the work session to start at 5 on the 14th.
And we can have a little seventh inning stretch before the regular.
And there's no pizza in the budget, so.
It's in the contingency.
It's the rainy day fund.
That's a lot of meat.
Yeah, the other thing, too, is if, what we did last year is we asked you to give us written questions so that I would give you an agenda, so that if somebody wants to add $30,000 to the finance department for new decorations, give me that as a request, and then I can at least have that so you'll know what the requests are going to be. So, I mean, if the things we talked about in December, I think are going to come back to us again, but I'd like to document what that is so that from an agenda standpoint, I can get those items out. So anything that needs to be revised here, if you can give it, I mean, that certainly doesn't stop you from bringing something up on the 14th, but it would be appreciated, because if I need to get better information for you, I'd like the opportunity to be able to do that.
And then, so this is for the preliminary budget. We still have to go through the whole
Yeah,
process.
let me make sure, we'll walk you through this. Yeah, we would have a resolution on the budget to adopt as amended, and then we would read in whatever the amendments were that collectively you agreed to. But a preliminary budget isn't your final budget. The preliminary budget is the budget that's going to go to the 2 hearings that are scheduled in April, and then you're going to have a final decision on a budget, which would be for the second meeting in April when you adopt the final budget. And I say final unless it goes through a process in terms of a referendum. Any other questions?
Thank you, Steve. Good job again. This meeting is adjourned.